The train raced swiftly across the country, blowing its whistle as it went. Sean and Nuala lost count of the many towns and villages they passed through. "This is a long journey to Grandmother's cottage," said Nuala. "Yes," said her brother Sean. "It will be late when we arrive." And he was right. The sun was setting when the guard called the children. "Your station is next," he told the children, "and your grandmother will be waiting for you." He helped the children with their suitcases as the train slowed down and stopped in the station. "Have a good holiday," he called as they ran to greet their grandmother. The small white-haired old lady hugged and kissed the children and then brought them home to her little cottage. After a delicious dinner, Sean and Nuala sat by the fire chatting with their grandmother. They talked about all the fun things they hoped to do on their week-long holiday. "Tomorrow we'll go to the Enchanted Forest," said Nuala excitedly. "Yes," replied Sean. "I hope our friends there will remember us." "Of course they will," said Nuala. "We had so much fun with them last year." Then Grandmother interrupted, speaking slowly and quietly. "Perhaps you shouldn't go to the Enchanted Forest this year," she said. "What do you mean?" asked the children, puzzled. Grandmother looked at the fire and did not answer. She stared at the flames and looked very sad. The children knew that something was wrong. "Why, Grandmother, what's the matter?" asked Nuala, but still Grandmother would not say. Then after a little while she looked up and said, "I think it's time for bed, children." After breakfast the next morning, the children walked along the path that led towards the Enchanted Forest. "We shouldn't go there," whispered Nuala. "Grandmother said not to." "We'll only go as far as the magic wishing well," declared Sean. He walked briskly as they neared the Enchanted Forest. "There's nothing to be afraid of," he said boldly. "Oh, yes, there is," cried Nuala. "Look at that!" She pointed at the large sign which stood at the entrance to the forest. Last year it said, "Welcome to the Enchanted Forest." But somebody had used thick black paint to change it to "Keep out of the Enchanted Forest." They stared at the forbidding sign for a little while, unsure of what to do next. Suddenly a tiny voice shouted, "Look who it is! Sean and Nuala have come to visit us again." Then an elf, who was dressed all in blue and who had funny pointed ears, hopped out from the bushes. He was no bigger than a milk bottle, and he ran over to the children with a big smile across his little face. His eyes were bright with excitement. "Welcome to the forest," said the elf. "It's great to see you two again." When they saw their old friend Aircorn, the elf, Sean and Nuala forgot Grandmother's cautious words and the forbidding sign. The three pals walked through the forest, laughing and talking as they went. After a while they reached the magic wishing well. A small wall built to form a circle stood in the middle of a clearing. Inside it was very dark, and deep down you could hear the sound of gurgling water. "May we make a wish?" asked Nuala as she peered into the darkness of the well. "Yes," replied Aircorn the elf. "But remember, you must tell no one what your wish is, because a magic wish will only come true if it's a secret wish." Sean and Nuala each threw a coin in, and they both made their wish. Then Nuala asked, "Acorn, why is the Enchanted Forest so quiet? All the birds seem to have gone away." "And where are all the rabbits and squirrels?" asked Sean. "It's very dark and scary." Nuala remembered the signpost which said, "Keep out," and Sean remembered Grandmother's warning to stay away from the forest. Together the children asked, "What's wrong, Acorn?" The little elf looked away and did not answer. Sean and Nuala knew that something was wrong. Before they could ask any more questions, there was a loud roar, followed by a loud noise deep in the forest. The three friends hid behind the wall of the magic wishing well and watched. The noises came nearer and nearer, until with another roar, a large green creature broke through the bushes. But it was nothing to be afraid of, because it was their old friend Delilah, the dragon. She had a long pointed tail, and from her mouth she breathed fire. Aircorn the elf jumped up. "Oh, you noisy, clumsy dragon," he shouted. "You had us scared out of our wits." "And look who has come to visit us," he said, pointing towards Sean and Nuala. The children ran out from their hiding place to greet their pal. "You sounded like some dreadful monster," they laughed. The big friendly dragon looked shamefully to the ground. "I'm sorry," she said in a deep, sorrowful voice. "I didn't mean to scare you. You know I love children." She came close to Sean and Nuala and gave them each a big kiss. "Now," she said, "who wants a trip around the enchanted forest?" She bent down low so that the three friends could climb onto her shiny green back, and off they went. As they rode through the forest, laughing and joking with their two magical companions, Sean and Nuala were still just a little bit scared. When Delilah Dragon became tired and stopped to let them down, Sean asked, "What's wrong in the enchanted forest, Delilah?" "Why, what on earth do you mean?" asked Delilah. Nuala answered, "Grandmother said we shouldn't come here at all, and the sign at the entrance said, 'Keep out.'" Sean continued, "When we asked Enchanted where all the animals were, he seemed afraid and would not answer us." Enchanted the elf looked up at Delilah Dragon. "Perhaps we should tell them," said Enchanted. "After all, it's their forest too." "No, no, no," said Delilah. "There's no point telling the children anything that may frighten them." Sean and Nuala were very puzzled. "Please tell us," they begged. "Oh, all right then," said Enchanted. In a hushed voice he told the children. A few months ago, a mean and wicked giant found his way here to the enchanted forest. He discovered a cave in the hills, which he has made his home. Delilah Dragon joined in. "He has frightened away all the rabbits, foxes, and squirrels. He pulls up the smaller trees and knocks the birds' nests to the ground." Enchanted the elf finished the story. Delilah tried to frighten him away by breathing fire on him, but that just made him even more wicked. We don't know how we can get rid of him. "I think we should go straight home to Grandmother," declared Nuala, who was very frightened by this tale. She turned and ran quickly towards home. "Oh, wait for me!" called Sean, running after his sister. Delilah Dragon watched the children as they ran away along the path. "Now see what you've done," she said to Enchanted the elf. "You've frightened our little friends away." She started to cry. Suddenly there was a bellowing voice which shook the trees.
"Jeremiah Giant would like to eat, so I'll search the forest and see who I meet."
A nearby tree came crashing to the ground beside Sean and Nuala, and there, standing directly in front of them, was the most ugly giant ever seen. His eyes opened wide with delight when he saw them.
"While I'm hungry, I do enjoy to eat a girl or a boy."
He reached down to grab Sean, but Nuala caught her brother and pulled him away. "Run!" she shouted, and they did. As fast as their legs could carry them, the ground shook as the giant followed them.
"There's no point in running from me. For every step you take, I take 3.
He laughed. He was right. He grabbed Sean in his left hand and Nuala in his right. Delilah Dragon and Enchanted the elf had followed behind the giant, but there was nothing they could do to save the children. Jeremiah Giant held the children up in front of his ugly face. He looked first at Sean and then at Nuala.
"I'll have boy for dinner and girl for tea. Don't bother to struggle, you can't break free."
He growled as Sean twisted and turned, but the giant held a firm grip on him. Just then, Jeremiah Giant came to the clearing where the magic wishing well stood. He was walking quite slowly now, and as he passed by the well, Sean reached deep down into his pocket and pulled out a coin. The giant was carrying him high above the well, but Sean took careful aim and threw the coin down. It hit the wall of the well and then bounced inside. Down, down, down it went, and then splash! He quickly made his magic secret wish and waited. Then there was a flash. Sean and Nuala tumbled to the ground, and standing there between them was the smallest, most angry giant in the world. The giant had been turned into an elf. He shouted,
"How dare you do this to me? I'll grow again, you'll see."
"No, you won't," answered Sean. "A magic wish is forever." Delilah Dragon and Enchanted the elf came running up, happy to see their friends were safe. Aircorn was particularly happy. "You've gotten rid of the wicked giant," he said, "and made a new friend for me." He went over to Jeremiah Giant, who was now the same size as Aircorn, but before he could say, "Hello," the tiny giant kicked him in the shin. He said,
I may not be very tall of late, but I will never forget how to hate.
Everyone laughed, but Nuala saw that the tiny giant might never be friendly. So she went over to the magic wishing well, threw in a coin, and made her wish. There was another flash, which knocked tiny Jeremiah Giant to the ground. He sat up and looked around as if he had just woken up from a deep sleep. Then he said in a sweet and gentle voice,
When I was young, my mother always said, a giant should be wicked, mean and bad. But I'm an elf now and not so high, so the rules for giants do not apply.
He asked his new friends to forgive him for being so nasty when he was a giant, and they did. Then he said,
From now on a helping hand I lend, my nasty evil ways I'll mend, and Elcorn the elf will be my best friend.
Sean and Nuala were very happy. The wicked giant was now a friendly elf. "There's just one important thing left to do," said Nuala. "What's that?" asked Sean. "We must find all the forest creatures who are frightened away and bring them back," answered Nuala.
Right,
said Delilah Dragon.
everyone climb on my back and we'll look for them.
For the rest of their holiday, Sean and Nuala had great fun searching for the rabbits, squirrels, foxes, and birds who had been scared away. They brought them all back, and soon the forest was alive and busy again. And the Enchanted Forest has been a happy, peaceful place ever since.